slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 yeah, go. Hustle hard, hustle every single day. I'll be making moves till I'm buried in my grave. To the system, I don't wanna be a slave. I've been doing shit my way, or the highway. And in the driveway is a nice range. Cause I grind through the climb, I invite pain. You'll never hear me, bitch, nah, I don't complain. Just gotta flip the switch and you can go and obtain anything you want, anything you need. Your mind's got the key ingredient, it's belief. They deceive with the negativity, but I just slide right by that energy. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go. You got a mind, but even that could change. You could flip the gray matter like some batter in your brain. That's why I say, fake it till you make it A. And if you play that game, then you just might make a change. Rearrange all the bad to okay. Take the worst thoughts saying, turn them to a game. Take the best thoughts saying, put them on display. On repeat in your brain till you're feeling no more pain. Never slow yourself down, you can do some more. Push past all the pain and you'll find a door. Open it up and finally explore everything that you thought you could never do before. And even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go.
All right, we're live. What's up, everyone? Got day 2 of our WNBA stream. I think yesterday went pretty well for our first stream. Our team card live stream pretty much hit all the way through, except we had a push on Alyssa's turnovers. But yeah, glad to have everyone back here. Shout out to chat. We got Sheriff in the chat. What's going on, gentlemen? What's up, Sheriff? Toa's in the chat. What's going on? Paul Whitlock, Sean Drake, and Jeffrey Major, and our boy IOD, and Emerson's Baby Gap shirt. So we got the huge, and then yeah, Aguida, our homie. Yeah, what's up, everyone?
What's going
How
on?
you doing,
guys?
Eric? How did yesterday treat you, man?
Oh, yesterday was good, really good. I feel like we were pretty spot on with the process. Had a lot of good picks. I believe our 4-pick for the team card on the video hit as well, right?
It did. It just had to push on the one prop, the turnover prop.
Yeah, we got the stat corrected. That was pretty unfortunate.
Yeah, so she had 2 turnovers in the first quarter, and then there was a stat corrections at some point after that.
Yeah, it happens, but the process was there, so we can't ask for
Yeah.
more.
Oh, for sure. I thought when she had those 2 early turnovers in like the first 3 minutes, I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be golden. But you can't you can't get too excited about a prop early on. That tends to burn you. I just want to see it clear before I get too excited.
Yeah, for sure,
Because
absolutely.
that's always a big letdown. But yeah, no, yesterday was good. I think yeah, the late game came through. It was a close one, the late night hammer between Sparks and who was it? Forget. Wasn't it? What was the late night hammer?
It was Sparks in Dallas.
Dallas. That's right. Dallas. I don't know why
Yeah.
I have Minnesota on my mind because I've been researching them. Yeah. Yeah. I think that. I mean, we were all over Liz. One of our favorite plays for good reason. Dallas continues to bleed points in the paint. They can't stop anyone, and they foul a lot too. So Liz cleared majority of her props, including her point prop, which we really liked, and then her free throw prop as well. So yeah, that all came together like we planned. And then yeah, today we have a much smaller slate, 2 games. Decent spreads, around 4 and 5 for both, but I think we can find some targets here that we like. Yeah, so I mean, we can just get right to it. Unless you had anything else about yesterday you wanted to recap.
No, it was a pretty solid day all in all. We got the two-point prop and 3-point made in the first 6 minutes. So we got a few new things to work with, a couple new tools to add to the list. But shout outs to that intro music, man. Can we get some likes down there for at least that today? Come on, y'all.
I don't know. I'm still always partial to the original intro song, but that one is pretty good. That one's fire.
Just something a little different though. Get you hyped today. If you're ready, man, we can go ahead and hop into it.
Yeah, I am sorry. I'm having keyboard issues here. I'm trying to connect it, but yeah, I'm pulling up the last game for Indy in New York.
Do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, start with that one. So they played recently and went to overtime on May 13th, so a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a good game. Only thing here is that Indiana is on a back-to-back, like you mentioned yesterday. So maybe that's a big reason why New York is a 5-point favorite. But it is a pretty decent total at 163. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of surprising seeing New York 5-point favorites, being how poorly they've been playing. Pretty sure they're last in the league record-wise. I think, what do they have, like 1 win so far in the season?
Yeah, they are playing terrible, 1-7.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're really bad at rebounding. Their defense is average. They foul a lot.
Injured players. I mean, just a whole slew of things going wrong for them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the only key news I have for them is Laney still remains out. Nothing else injury news for them. They recently dropped props for them. They were holding out for some reason on a lot of the New York players. But yeah, I mean, Sabrina is always a popular play. But yeah, I mean, her scoring has gone way down as of late. And that's why her point prop is at 12.5, right about at her season average. And I just noticed that like defenses are pretty much just attacking her and blitzing her right away and trapping her and forcing the ball out of her hand because they know, besides Natasha Howard, that Sabrina's pretty much the engine in this offense, and the primary scorer. So I think it kind of makes sense for someone like her, if you probably not just to go with the points because of how defenses treat her. Maybe you could consider her assist, and hope that her supporting cast can keep up with the pace and scoring, especially someone like Natasha Howard. Or you can just throw a blanket with her fantasy because she can rack up the stocks. But she's also turnover prone. She's averaging 3 turnovers on the season. So it's something to think about if you're debating between her PRA and her fantasy points. And then I probably like Natasha Howard the most in this matchup. I really wanted a free throw prop for her. We did not get it, unfortunately. Maybe we will later, but the only free throw props they allow or provided for us so far for New York is Sabrina at 1.5 and Rebecca Allen at 1.5. And the reason for this is key because like Natasha is really good at getting to the free throw line, and being aggressive and tagging. both Indiana and New York are top 2 in most free throws allowed. I believe Indiana is first, and then New York is right there behind them at second at most free throws allowed. So this could turn into a foul-happy game. I believe last game there was a lot of free throws to go around. Howard was 5 of 7 from the line. Sabrina was 4 or 5, and then some bench players got to the line as well. Yeah, they both teams had about 20 to 30 free throw attempts in that game. If we think it's going to play out pretty similar, if they're going to foul a lot, it would make sense to go with the free throw props, but it's unfortunate we didn't get Natasha's. But I think we could still get behind some of her other props, especially probably her fantasy, probably like the most, because she's averaging about 2.4 stocks on the season, and yeah, I mean she's really aggressive and solid defender. So probably going to lean fantasy for her. And then our second favorite player who we like to play off the bench, Hanju. She is the tallest player in the league at 6'10", which is kind of crazy to think about because like NBA, that's, close to average, which is like what, 6'6", 6'7". So yeah, she's tallest player, and she's been super productive, and she's earning more minutes and becoming a key part of this offense. She's very productive in scoring. They have bumped her points up a bit. I think they've been around 7.5 or 8. Now it's climbing up to 9.5. But she's averaging around 11. And yeah, like I said, when she's in there, she's efficient. And she's a very good free throw shooter for being a big, shooting over 80%. And they gave us a free throw prop for her. So they have it at 2, and she's averaging 2.6 free throws made on the season. So that, since we didn't get Natasha, that could be one if you want a lower line to consider there, because how much Indiana fouls. And they're on a back-to-back. Maybe they're a little more lazy and foul happy today. But I'm going to lean, probably her free throw and points at 9.5 here, which is about a 1.7 difference from her average. Any other leans or that you consider for New York, or any other comments you had on those players?
Yeah, definitely right there with you as far as Howard and Lonasu. With Sabrina, I think I either probably want to go with some kind of a blanket over her PRA or fantasy. As of right now, I have her PRA highlighted as kind of my go-to at 21.5. She had a pretty stellar game against them at the beginning of the season. She had a ton of points and just kind of filled up the stat sheet, but she doesn't get too many stocks in this matchup. The opportunity is probably there with Indiana being the last in the league with fouls and turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely want a piece of one of these. I think one of the front 2 stars between Howard or Lonescu. Howard, I think I like a little bit more just because in her history versus this matchup, she averages about 4.3 stocks in this meeting, and that obviously correlates with their turnover and foul rates that they have on the team. So I think for her, I'm going to go with Howard on the fantasy score today, and then sprinkle some bit of Lanescu and Hanzu as well. The matchup in the front court is going to be very interesting because Stephanie Dolson, she is a huge liability in this matchup.
Yeah.
She doesn't defend very well, so we're going to see the guards cut a lot in the first rotation here and get really involved. I actually had a slight lean for her points. They have it at a real minimal 6 points here, and in this matchup history, she's averaged about 11 points. Very low rebounding, but very efficient at scoring. So just to kind of give you guys a little bit of a perspective here for the last meeting that they had. New York had 30, let's see, they had 33 rebounds compared to Indiana's 57 rebounds.
Yeah, I have it up
So
on the stream right here.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Yeah, so just I mean a massive blowout difference. Even though we did get overtime here, so obviously New York was efficient with scoring, but the rebounding here is going to be pretty insane for both sides, I think.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to touch on next with Indiana because yeah, New York still remains bottom in the league, less in rebound percentage and allowing the most rebounds to opponents. So it's prime spot for the rebound machines on Indiana's side. Um, but yeah, I mean Indiana's like middle of the pack, fifth in rebound percentage on the season. Um, so I mean, yeah, I think it explains a big discrepancy in that last matchup with the almost double in rebounds by Indiana. So I expect to see something similar today. Maybe not that drastic, but still probably lopsided towards Indiana winning on the glass, unless they're a little more fatigued from the back to back. But they have some young players, and so we can just hop right into that on that side. Yeah. So the one that stood out to me right away was Alyssa Smith. She is a rookie, so I think being on a back to back, fresh, young legs, like probably out of everyone on the starting unit, could still, get those minutes and thrive, and not have to worry about fatigue here. And her rebound is something that really stood out because of everything we just touched on. So we go up here. So I have right here on each column their average on the season, and then the prize picks prop, and then what the difference is between that. So they have her at 5.5 rebounds, and she's averaging about 8.4. So you're almost having a three differential for rebound, and that's really high. You don't usually see that for a rebound differential from their average. And that last game, she this is I wouldn't expect the same thing today. It was kind of an anomaly, but she had 17 rebounds in that last matchup. Now, keep in mind, it did go to overtime. And then, yeah, Egbo, Queen had 14. That is kind of, ceiling spike ultimate game there, but still, I mean, the line is only 5.5. That I really like. But I'm not gonna like court as like the only play for her because with rebound being so variable and Queen could soak up rebounds and even Vivian's like it's just we've seen it in WNBA. Rebounding can be so variable, and yeah, it just depends on if the other team's taking a lot of threes, and when they do in the WNBA, when they miss threes, they miss them bad at times, and they're just way off the mark and long rebounds. So I still like it, but I'm probably gonna get exposure to her PRA. They have her PRA at 19.5, which I think in this matchup it just seems too low for her potential here. So I'm probably going to go 50-50 exposure on her rebound and her PRA. And then her fantasy point. Yeah. So I guess we can talk about this. So she's averaging about 29 on the season, and they have her at 22. Yeah, I mean, she racked up stocks in that last matchup too. I believe she only had one steal. I was thinking of Vivian's and Queen. She does have the tendency to turn it over, but I still think that 22 is too low. So, yeah, do you have a lean on her props, like rebound over PRA or PRA over fantasy? Do you have a favorite out of those, or are you just going to get exposure to all of them?
Probably exposure to both of them. I probably the rebound, I think, just because the opportunity is going to be there, and we saw how many they got in the last outing. Um, and especially with New York not having Laney for this one, um, she's still out for this one, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. She was a huge defensive part for their game last outing, so this is going to be an even easier matchup here. I don't expect the same ceiling game that she had last time, but there's not going to be anybody else besides honestly her and Egbo fighting for the rebounds. So if one's not getting it, the other one's probably going to be having a big night. But honestly, you could see an 8+ on both of them before the night's over, and that would even surprise me.
Yeah, yeah. I'm even though that both Queen and Smith could clear the rebounds together, I just I probably won't play him on the same card just out of fear of negative correlation. If one just becomes a rebound monster and just we've seen it, just one person just eats up all the boards and affects the other rebounding potential. So
Definitely.
so
Yeah,
I'll
one or
probably
the
make
other.
make a card with one or the other. And if I want to go with Queen's rebound, um, I would maybe throw in Smith's like fantasy or PRA with it, to encompass all the other stats that she could still get to, without Queen affecting. And then yeah, I guess Queen. I guess the only problem with her would be foul trouble, right? And yeah, like you said, Indiana fouls probably at the highest rate. So that's something you'd have to keep in mind, especially if Natasha racks up some draws fouls on her. She she finished that game. I mean, she went through overtime and finished still with only 4 fouls, but yeah, that's still. I mean, a couple more in this game could definitely eat into her potential. Yeah, and I don't know like how would Indiana treat on a back to back some of these players like Queen. That's one thing I'm curious to see. Um, but yeah, I think the other target that I was interested in was Kelsey Mitchell. I mean, she's just been on a tear, especially with her scoring. Um, let's see, they have her. Yeah, they really juiced her points up now to 18 and a half, which makes sense. I mean, she's going over 20 points a game recently. Um, I don't see why she couldn't get there today in this matchup. New York is not that big of a threat on defense or showstopper. So she, yeah, I mean, she didn't even shoot that well that last game, but she put up 22 shots and I mean, 8 of 22, and she still had 24 points. Since she doesn't really fill up the stat line, I'm gonna lean, and since I'm gonna target other players for their peripheral stats, I might just lean her points. I know it's high at 18 and a half. Um, what do you think about her?
Yeah, right now, honestly, I just have her points and her free throw. I know we had mentioned that earlier about kind of both of these teams get a little handsy. So I actually do like either the raw points or their free throws at 3.5.
Yeah,
She's
it's right at her season average.
Yeah, just over the season average. But the season attempts are over 4,
Mhm.
and I feel like she's stepping back into her prime form right now.
Mhm.
We had a reasonable performance to start the year, and then she hit this cold streak for a little while. But it seems like she's back now. And with these two lack of defenses, we have number 11 and number 8. There's not going to be much resistance, and as long as she's not fatigued from last night, she should just kind of be the main scorer here every time she's on the floor.
Oh yeah, 100%. And especially since I don't know if you noticed, like when I was going back and looking at a recent film for Indiana, the vet Danielle Robinson. I mean, I think one of the longest vets in the league, over what 15 years or something like that.
Hmm.
I noticed that she's starting to take a back seat and play less minutes and be less involved. As a result, I mean, PrizePicks has really dropped her props, from what she started at, in the season. So I think that's even more in agreement that Kelsey will continue to dominate, the usage and ball handling. Yeah, I mean they have Daniel Robinson all the way down to 14 and a half. So I think maybe being a vet too, for someone like her, she would continue to play less minutes on the back to back as well. Is there anyone else on Indiana that you like that we did not, or props that we didn't go over?
I saw somebody shouted out in the YouTube chat about Emily. Um, Man, I'm still on the fence, kind of how to feel about her on
Yeah.
this team is a core piece of what they have. So one thing that I've noticed is they like to put her on specific people to kind of match matchups. And we saw that here recently where she got extended minutes and had really great production. But one huge pause for me is going to be with Smith coming back off of her injury. Um, that immediately kicked back into some of her minutes and some of her production. And she was no longer starting. So she's coming off the bench here, Emily, that is. Um, and she had a spike game where she got 27 minutes, but it was in a pretty high foul situation. And a lot of the times, her minutes are going to be a fairly close correlation to how many minutes or how many fouls Queen Egbo is doing. So, for me personally, I wouldn't read too far into that. It's kind of a hit or miss player, and she's coming off a bit of a hot streak. A lot of her starts that she had, 24, 17, 19, 36 fantasy points. So with that 36 fantasy point, they're going to juice a lot of her props. Um, and then just kind of by mishap, the next two games, she had a reasonable one. So right now, we're going to be getting those props at their most juice that they've been for the season. And that might be kind of a dangerous thing if she gets in foul trouble or if somebody else is getting the hot hand. They're probably going to go with that tonight, especially with the team being on a back to back.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm in agreement with you that I think with her role and just so much variance in her rotations, minutes, and matchup, it just seems too risky for prop betting. I would say for like DFS, if you wanted to try to find some edge and try to predict the rotations and how she would find a path where she could play more minutes and be productive, I would get it for doing a large GPP. But for prop betting, I want to feel really good about someone's role in production. And yeah, I'm with you on it being risky. And then I guess Victoria, people are mentioning her. Yeah, it's again, she could get there, but I mean, I think she could take a hit from people like Kelsey and Smith, soaking up all the usage and production. But yeah, I mean, she's a good supporting cast, for sure.
Yeah.
And then I guess before we take some chat questions and we leave this game, do you want to go over some of these field goal made for this game in the first 6 minutes?
Yeah. So just going back to, let me bring back this game breakdown. My favorite one is definitely going to be the Indiana 2 points made in 6 minutes. They have it at 2.5 still. Just going back and looking at their first meeting, Indiana, I believe, had 8 2 pointers made in the first 5 minutes. So that was definitely a good pace up spot, and we know that they're the fastest or one of the fastest in the pace for the league. So I had mentioned this earlier that I feel like this is kind of a mistake on PrizePicks' part. They're trying to scale this to the NBA and how the NBA rotations and minutes work. So for some of you guys that don't know, WNBA, they're 10-minute quarters, not 12 minutes. So some of the rotations are wildly different than what we see in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
And last night, we had a 3-gamer. 5 out of the 6 props all cleared with ease, and one of them was at a push. So the only one that I would have a small concern with tonight for the 2-point props would just be New York. Sometimes Sabrina can get hot from 3, or if one of them just really struggles, they might flop there. But the Indiana starters and the Atlanta starters 2.5, I think those are honestly free squares tonight.
Okay, I'll add that. I'm starting. I have a little section here beneath the game notes, so I'll add that to our list. So for this game and matchup, we have Natasha fantasy points for PRA, and then her 5.5 rebounds, and then 2 points, and let's
I think the New York starters at 2.5 is probably the most risky of the four that we have from options today,
I
but
agree.
very, very live. They in their first meeting they had 12 attempts. They just missed a ton of it, and then they hit a couple of threes. But they actually cleared it, but it was right at the 4 minutes and 21 or 22 second marker. So literally at the end.
Yeah, I think their offense can be so up and down, and they can make some careless turnovers a lot. Even Sabrina, I see make really careless turnovers. Okay, I think that's what we took away from this game so far. Unless I'm missing any other key one we talked about. I know we went over Sabrina. I feel like for me that's more mid tier, but if you're feeling confident on her, I would say that last matchup that was probably a career game for her. She had 31 real points, 7 assists, 4 steals. I think she had way over 50 fantasy points. And but she shot ridiculous, 5 of 10 from three. I mean, I went back and looked at that game. She was making like fadeaway threes.
Yeah,
It was just one
she
of
was
those.
making some
Yeah,
ridiculous 3 pointers too.
yeah. It's just
Um,
those games where the players just don't miss. They just keep chucking it. So, um,
and
but I would say
then
she's more mid tier for me. I can feel
yeah,
really confident about Natasha and Hanzu and Smith and Mitchell. And then I like your first 6 minute call out for the Indiana.
and then for Indiana as well, they have their 3 points made in the first six at just 0.5, and that was free last night as well.
Okay, we can add that.
A little bit lower on the priority, but I think until they bump it up at least to a whole point, that's still pretty free.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun one to sweat.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's see what Chad thinks about this game. Let's take some questions here. All right. Cowboy asked Mitchell or Victoria. Victoria always a sneaky play. Yeah, I just think Mitchell is just playing so well right now and dominating the usage. So I feel most confident on her, especially for her points. But yeah, I mean Victoria, you've seen, she played key supporting role, so definitely get it. I guess the props for her would be, yeah, they have all her stuff pretty much aligned. Yeah, I mean all her props are pretty spot on.
I had her fantasy and points highlighted, but nothing too warm and fuzzy. She just plays pretty deep minutes and shoots a
Yeah.
lot.
Okay, so we can consider that mid tier. Her 21 fantasy point. Okay. Let's see. Someone said Victoria's been playing amazing, shooting lights out. Yeah.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
Hey, welcome, Naked HD. Is someone on that? Okay, someone.
Yep.
All right, so we can, since chat and everyone's on Victoria, we will add it to our list as a team target here. So let's go ahead. And we'll just go with her fantasy points since it's such a low line. Unless you guys wanted to go with her real points.
No, I like the fantasy.
Yeah.
She's just playing 30 plus minutes. We like the minutes to match up or minutes to prop line.
Yeah, and it when you can still pair it and play it with Mitchell's points too. Okay, so that's our current list right now. And then we're gonna compile and we'll do another team card for the group. Hopefully, we can keep a hot streak going. All right, let's move on to the next one. We have Minnesota at Atlanta. This one's a much lower implied total, and for good reason. Atlanta is the best defense in the league. It's 156 implied total. Atlanta's only a 4.5 favorite. So I saw a crazy stat line that showed that Atlanta's allowing like fewest scoring per 100 possessions since back what was it 15 years ago in New York Liberty, and the point guard at that time was for Liberty was the current coach of Atlanta now. So I think she definitely brought that defensive mindset to Atlanta. They're very good at transition defense. They fill the gaps, and yeah, there's very solid defensive team. And then you have Minnesota, who's the opposite. Minnesota is a bottom defensive team. They have the second worst defensive rating. But they, yeah, I mean they're decent in the paint with Foles there and Shepard, but yeah, their defense overall just really struggles. And then they're pretty much average on everything else. They pretty much middle of the road in pace. They're sixth, and then they're fourth in rebounding percentage. Because yeah, Foles and Shepard can soak up the boards. But yeah, if you look at Atlanta's stat lines, man, they're a well-oiled machine in terms of all the peripheral stats and defensive stats. They're first in defensive rating, second in rebound percentage, and then they surprisingly, but you don't see this often when you have a good defensive team like this. Usually they run a slower pace because they like to set their defense and shut down a half-court offense. But like I said, I think they run this faster pace, and because they're so good at transition defense, they can still run a fast pace overall. So yeah, they're third in pace, and then they allow the fewest points in the paint. So with that said, we can start with Minnesota. Big news here. Start off with Minnesota. We have Mariah Jefferson out. So I try to go back and look at some data and see how this affects like usage and assist rate and things like that. There's not much from the season because she pretty much played every game except one game she played like a handful of minutes. Right now, I tentatively have Rachel starting, but maybe they could throw in the young Westbrook into the starting lineup. But I noticed that last game when Jefferson would check out, Rachel was the direct substitute and played the most minutes in place of her. So I would just assume it would be Rachel. But we just have to look out for the starting lineup on that. I still wouldn't run the click on her, but we can see if PrizePicks offers anything for her. But I did notice that when Jefferson is off the court, Power's assist rate goes up to about 23%. And then Kayla's, it doesn't really take that much of a bump because she just doesn't have a high assist rate. So I think, if this was any other matchup, I could consider some of the assist props for maybe Powers or Shepard. But given the matchup against Atlanta, I don't want to target assist props against a stout defense because you're relying on those other supporting players to make their shots. And I just expect with this low implied total at 156, I expect a really low field goal percentage from Minnesota. So I think the one I think that probably stands out to me would be because all the props on them are very in line with their normal season average data and stats. So I would probably save just Foles for her fantasy points, but it's so high at 34. and it's not a good matchup whatsoever. But maybe we get on some of these lower lines for her, like her free throw made. It's at 2.5. She's very effective at getting to the line. But yeah, I mean they have all her lines really juiced for good reason. And then I guess Kayla would be the only other one I would maybe consider, but I just don't feel super confident on it. Do you have any leans on the Minnesota side?
So I think my biggest question is going to be what our starting line looks like.
Yeah.
Now, we had Powers before this last game. She actually went back to the bench and she was coming off the bench. And now that we have that player, was it Robinson injured? No, Jefferson. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Mariah.
she's
Yep.
out. She's out for a month at least.
Yep.
Um, so that's going to be, I guess, kind of my biggest question mark is if we have Powers in the starting offense. I think that is going to cut down on her assist rating. She typically is going to facilitate the ball a little more. So I actually do like her points. As of recently, she wasn't scoring in just the normal like open category. She was actually driving a lot more and has been getting a pretty ridiculous amount of free throws. She had 10 attempts last game, 14 the game before. So some of that's kind of padding a little bit of her point stats, but we've actually had in the last two meetings some of their closest games more recently. So we're seeing that they do need somebody else on the offense to score. And we know that Atlanta's really stout in the front court. So I'm not expecting fouls to do as much heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm.
She's been playing really angrily lately, drawing a lot of fouls,
Yeah.
getting real close to getting thrown out of a couple games. So tonight could be the night, but who knows? I'm definitely not going to go there with any kind of confidence.
Yeah.
But really, I think the starting line is going to dictate where a lot of some of the facilitators are going to be. Personally, I would like to see her start alongside with McBride because usually the two of them have a pretty solid connection in the perimeter. But then you also run the risk of who's going to be the hot hand and who's going to be getting the assist. So kind of a do or die situation here. Zero confidence coming out of this side of this game. I'll be totally honest.
I'm right there with you, man. I think that's good that we have the same early lean on that. Makes me feeling even better about possibly fading entire Minnesota team, and then maybe getting a couple pieces from Atlanta that we'll go over in a second. They don't even. Okay, that's interesting. So they don't even have a three. Okay, they have a 3-point prop. They have at least one. It's probably too risky to go under on their 3 2-point field goal made in the first 6 minutes. But I mean, that would be crazy if they only make 2 field goals in the first 6 minutes. But it has to be starters, and yeah. I was just trying to find a maybe one of these other props from Minnesota besides the player props.
Maybe the 3-point one, just because McBride or Powers could chuck a three and hit one early. But other than that, probably none of those on this side.
Yeah. All right, let's just move to Atlanta. Okay, so back to what we were saying about Atlanta. Yeah, I mean the only obvious one that stood out to me right away would probably be Howard, and just for her fantasy as always because she's a stock monster, averaging almost 2.5 stocks per game, and they still have her fantasy point line less than 30. It's at 28. That's the one that stood out to me right away. Yeah, and she doesn't really turn the ball over that much. She's averaging about 1 turnover per game. So I like that for fantasy even more. And then her free throws. So they opened her at 2.5. She's averaging about 3.3. She's another aggressive player who gets to the free throw line at a high rate. Although, let's see, Minnesota, they're right in the middle of the pack on free throws allowed per game. It's a lower line if you want to sweat for her. I think the 2.5. And she's a pretty solid free throw shooter. And then yeah, and then I guess they have her block and steal at 2. It's always something to consider with a player like her. But maybe just to throw a blanket, like I said, I'm gonna stick with probably the fantasy. And then what was the other one I had in mind?
The assist?
For Howard?
Yeah.
Is that what you like? Yeah.
Well, I knew it was just being talked about earlier or quite a bit in Discord.
Okay, we can add that. Was there any other ones that you had to lean on?
Not for Howard. Honestly, tonight I just had her fantasy and her assist category. We've seen, or one thing that at least I've noticed, just kind of breaking down some of the game footage, is with Atlanta getting some of their pieces back now and them actually having more time to play as a unit in the regular season. Because this is her first year, in case you guys didn't know. So we're seeing that she's taken a step back from the do it all mentality and I
Yeah.
have to score, I got to do everything, to okay, I can pass the ball, I can set up for my team and not have to take it all on my shoulders here. And with that, with the fantasy score, we're seeing, assists worth more points. So that's been correlating a lot with her fantasy score, and getting some stocks in there as well. It's just kind of pushed it right up and over.
Yeah. She won Rookie of the Month last month because of how well she's
Yeah.
been playing. But yeah, that theory makes sense. And it's not like a super prime spot for her, but I would say it's average in this type of game environment, especially with Minnesota. They don't run the fastest pace, and they're pretty average in their paint defense. So nothing that like crazy stands out. I agree, but we can still. Just to find some targets for that, we can add her fantasy. And then, do you have any other players that you like for Atlanta?
Yeah. Let's see. Bring up sheet here. So let's see. Another one that I did like was Parker. We've seen her come back from, I believe, a brief injury and shaking off a lot of the rust that she had there. Two of my favorite props for her today was probably going to be her fantasy score, mostly because her stock options have just been insane. She gets at least 2 steals per game, and that was one of our favorite props last time when they had it at 1.5. I believe they bumped her to 2. Yeah, she got a even 2 today. So that one might be still in play, but I think that her fantasy score is going to be the way to go. She shot pretty terrible last outing and still cleared that. Yeah, she still cleared that with 30 fantasy score. So if we can get somewhat of a reasonable form from her, and especially if that's going to correlate with Howard's assists going up, we should see her get more involved here and land more shots.
Okay. So I'll put Howard 2 assists and then Parker 25 fantasy.
Yeah, I'm with it.
You said Parker, right?
Yep, Parker.
And then, do we want any of the other guards like Wheeler or Wallace? I feel like just
their props are a little juiced.
Yeah,
I
especially
mean,
for the role.
Wheeler's not bad. She does a little bit of everything, but
Yeah,
right now her turnover for the season average is at 4. So there's a lot of risk in her fantasy score. Or if she's playing bad, coach could pull her, and one of the guards from the second unit can get hot and step in. So there's definitely a lot of risk, and Atlanta has a lot of depth to the team. So I feel that if this game goes sideways at all, we're going to get really flat minutes from a lot of the starters.
I agree. I'm surprised that when it opened up, it only had a 4.5 spread. But I thought with Minnesota being road dogs and then having Mariah out, having to shift up the rotation, that Atlanta would be a much heavier favorites in this matchup. But I guess Vegas thinks otherwise. Yeah, so I think key thing in this matchup, if you wanted, maybe we could find an edge, is find out what the starting lineup is, see what PrizePicks drops for us, and if they give us any other bench players, like a Westbrook or something like that, then maybe you can consider some Minnesota plays. And then any of these starter props, we have 2.5 again for the 2-point field goal made, and they
That
have
one I really like.
and then they have their 3-point all the way up at 1. All the other ones are at 0.5, so good chance of a push. So we can add this one here. Just with Minnesota's defense being so bad and in Atlanta playing at a very fast pace, it makes sense. Third fastest, so some rationale behind that.
And then small mention for Christy Wallace. She's playing a reasonable amount of minutes, and PrizePicks hasn't gotten savvy to fixing any of her props yet. So they only got, I believe, a half a point and a point bump from the last outing. So more of a mid-tier play, but probably somewhere in the card pool tonight.
Oh, her 7.5 points.
Yeah, either the points or the PRA are just really low. She could get on either one of those and just points alone.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's why I was debating. I was like, do we want to get exposure to her or Wheeler in this matchup? With Minnesota's perimeter defense probably being their main weakness, because they are pretty stout in the paint with fouls there. So that's why I was kind of thinking, like a Ren Howard or a Christy or Erica. So we could probably add that on our main list as a mid tier, just because I feel like there's some risk to it. Probably just say Wheeler for 10.5 points, and then and then we can go with Christie's PRA at 12.5. All right. Any other things to close out this game before you talk to chat?
No, just keep an eye out. PrizePicks, dropped a bomb on us yesterday, kind of midstream or right before the stream with all these new props. We could get something new added, but I would just keep an eye out for some of the non-starter pieces that we don't have props for yet. Those have been a really good area and opportunity for us to attack.
Okay, well, speaking of that, we just got the Minnesota bench plays. So we got Westbrook and we got Rachel. Westbrook, they opened at 4.5 points and 7.5 PRA and 10.5 fantasy. She's she's a young player. She's shined at times. So I think if she can get extended run, because she just doesn't get the minutes. That's the problem. But if she can get more minutes with Jefferson being out, these are really low lines. I mean, she's averaging, how much minutes has she been averaging in the season?
Westbrook?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Definitely lower than Rachel.
So she started this last game and got 15 minutes. Looks like her average is probably low end 14 minutes up to 20, 25 maybe.
Twelve minutes?
For Westbrook, yeah, at a minimum.
Maybe there's a possibility. Don't you think there's a possibility that it could get up to maybe 18, pick up more minutes with Jefferson out? If maybe they split some of Jefferson's minutes between Westbrook and Rachel, and they don't give it all to one of them, or just give them all to Rachel. I guess it's risky because we don't really know. But I mean, yeah, Westbrook being the rookie. Yeah, I guess that's another thing is if Atlanta gets a pretty sizable lead, and let's say it's pretty much over with a good chunk of the fourth left, I assume they just run Westbrook out there for all the closing minutes.
It's definitely possible.
Developer as the rook.
The only concern I would have, just kind of looking at last game rotation, is even with Westbrook starting, she came in, she played halfway through the first quarter, and then she didn't check back in until 4 minutes remaining in the third quarter. So that's a huge concern for me. And she was playing marginally well. I think my biggest worry is that they're going to go with Rachel kind of regardless on the game script, and
Yeah.
both of them could definitely hit their props. But Westbrook's been on the board more than Rachel has so far this season. And with that, I'm just going to assume that PrizePicks is going to go with what they had in the last outing and keep their algorithm about the same. So this will be new opportunity, at least for Rachel's props. Man, this is kind of a torn situation. I don't think both of them get there, but one or the other will definitely see extended minutes.
Yeah, that's why I had that was my early lean, was that Rachel would get majority of those minutes, and that's why I had her in the starting lineup. And if we get confirmation that she is in the starting lineup and Westbrook is not, I mean, she could still come off the bench and end up playing more minutes than Westbrook, even with Westbrook starting. So maybe the starting lineup isn't even a telling the whole story. Yeah, I mean, it's tempting with both of their props being so low, and since we don't really have any plays that we really like from Minnesota, with fouls being so juiced, I think we can consider taking a stab at each of them in separate cards. Maybe their fantasy, just hoping they can pick up some stocks with that such a low fantasy line. Even if they're not super productive scoring, they can just pick up some peripheral stats and some steals. And I mean, 10.5 and 11 fantasy is it's really low. So
yeah, it's a low bar.
I would probably treat them equally, but if I had a lean, I guess I'll go Rachel, thinking that she would get more minutes. Okay, so we can wrap up and see what chat says, and then we can do our team card. So let me make sure. Okay, let's see what chat has. Gun said Josh just got drafted. Oh yeah, that was a fantasy alert for my MLB fantasy team. Genuine said Christy Wallace PRA is a sneaky lock. That's something that Eric liked as well. Paul Whitlock said Wallace fantasy points I like. Okay, so yeah, Christy's popular play so far. Did I have her? Oh, you know what? I completely forgot. Last night I was on her fantasy points because I noticed. Yeah, I was watching film last night for his going to bed, and I noticed that how much of a role she's taking on, even just being a rookie. So yeah, thinking back on that, I completely forgot. I did have that on my early list, and I'm right there with you guys on Christy. Um, yeah, her scoring is picking up, and yeah, I mean she looks really good for a rook. And Guida said, anything on Vivian's fantasy? We talked about that. A lot of people in chat commented on that and liked it. So yeah, I think we prioritize Kelsey and Smith, and then we could get with Victoria as well as a third piece. Gunn said Westbrook, his favorite all-time player. Genuine said my favorites are for the Liberty Fever game. I don't really like Minnesota versus Atlanta props. Yeah, we're feeling the same way. But maybe like we were talking about, we can get on some of these lower lines from the bench pieces, secondary plays. Westbrook. Let's see. Genuine said Westbrook got a black eye or it's swollen. She was icing her eye today. Okay, that's good to note. Emerson asked, where do you guys find your WNBA starting lineup info, RotoWire? Oh, so I just handled these spreadsheets for the show based on the current injury news and what the most recent rotations have been. So it's not anything like an official lineup, but I guess nothing is official until you get that lineup before lock. But it's not drawn from like a website or anything like that we do for NBA, where NBA will have, some websites will have the unofficial projected starting lineup. It's mainly just based on when I look back at those starting rotations and units from the most recent few games.
Yeah, or you can follow the WNBA teams on Twitter too. A lot of the times they'll tweet out their starting lineups or injury news.
Yeah. All right, let's do our team card. Let's get it. So I went first yesterday, so it's all you this time. See what you got.
All right. So we'll go back to the well with Lissa Smith and her rebound prop.
I love it.
5.5. Yeah,
That was,
should be a solid.
Yeah. That was the first thing I put on the board, the list last night. So let's do. I keep forgetting my keyboard not connected. All right. What you got next? Take your time. Don't rush it, because we want to keep this hot streak going.
I gotta go with. We're gonna stay with Indy and the 2 points made in the first 6 minutes.
Okay. Going back and look at my notes from yesterday. I'm going to go with I think it's a sign. Everyone was on Christy Wallace in honor of chat team card build. Let's go with Christie's fantasy points. Unless we want to do our PRA.
Let's go fantasy. Everyone's asking about that.
Let's do it. On our chat. And then I'm going to nominate for the last piece. I'm going to do it, man. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go with our girl. Tallest player in the league. Hanzu.
All right. She's been showing out, so yeah, I'll support that.
She's balling in Indy gives up the most points in the paint. So it's hopefully she keeps it up. Only thing with her is being a bench player and coming in, minutes are never guaranteed, but I feel like she's earning a role here. And should continue to earn more minutes. Yeah, because I mean the other one I was kind of thinking about we can throw in as a fifth play, but keep the 4 pick because that's what we're counting as our current streak as one. But yeah, it would probably be one of Natasha Howard's props, like her fantasy or her free throw made.
Okay.
I mean,
I think she's a strong play tonight, honestly.
I like both Howards, to be honest, but yeah. Like even Rin Howard's assist, like you said. Okay, there it is. And let's open our pack. The tradition.
Good. And
What do you
need
think?
the free Discord after this or no?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna be chopping it up in the free Discord after this. Make sure you guys hop in. Links in the description below, and I believe Gunn posted it as well. We got Caleb McBride. Okay. She playing tonight?
Wow, we got another one that's playing tonight. Erica Wheeler, but this is when she was on the Sparks.
Okay.
Whoa, another one. But someone that we weren't
Fouls. Okay.
not a big fan of though in the matchup. But I mean, she can get it done. I feel like in any game environment. And then we got a green Tolliver.
Tolliver. Okay. That was all in one pack.
Yeah, it's 4 cards per pack. And we had 3 players out of the 4 in this game or in this slate. So yeah, Dave, top 5 WNBA picks today. We went over a list for each game matchup, but our current favorites for a team build card is right here. With Smith 5.5 rebounds, and then the 2.5 2-point field goal made for the Indy starters, and then Chrissy Wallace fantasy and Hanzu's 9.5 points. But yeah, I mean, if you guys want access to more of our content and ideas and thoughts, definitely like Eric said, join the free Discord in the link below. And yeah, everyone's active constantly all the way up until lock, and then everyone tends to sweat all of these props together when we make these team cards, and especially since when we get on the same targets together. So it's a lot of fun when we do that. So I recommend that for sure. And then yeah, keep an eye out for these live streams. We're gonna keep going with them on slates that have at least, I want to say, probably 2 games. Because with WNBA, a lot of slates will have just one game, and I believe that's the case for tomorrow. We have one game because it's game 1 of the NBA Finals, and me and Gunn believe we'll have a live stream for that tomorrow for the NBA game 1 prior to lock. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, we probably won't have any WNBA stream since it's game 1 of the finals and there's only one game. But Friday we'll definitely be back. 4 games. Should be a lot of fun. See who we have on deck. Okay. Yeah, should be some good ones here. Chicago and Atlanta. Some lopsided with Connecticut and Phoenix, but yeah, Friday should be fun. 4 games. But yeah, we'll still chop up the one game tomorrow. It just won't be on a live stream. But definitely come back and join us on Friday for the 4-game slate. Anything else, Eric, you got?
That's gonna be about it. We're gonna go hop over in the Discord and chop it up, and hope to see you guys there.
Yeah, good luck, everyone. We got 45 minutes, so
Good luck, y'all.
take care.